Recently, the French Development Agency AFD and the French Cultural Center L'Espace held a photo exhibition of 60 solutions to cope with climate change in Hanoi. The exhibition featured 22 photographs by photographer Jan Arthur Bertrand to introduce viewers to new and effective solutions combining climate change response with economic development in many regions of the world. The key topics were supporting farmers and renewable energies, transportation development, and sustainable waste management.
Thực sự thì mình rất là ấn tượng với lại cả buổi triển lãm hôm nay, tại vì là buổi triển lãm đã cho chúng ta rất là nhiều các cái giải pháp ứng phó với biến đổi khí hậu trong các cái chủ đề khác nhau như về thích ứng hay về giảm nhẹ liên quan đến năng lượng tái tạo, và đặc biệt nữa thì nó cho chúng ta những cái giải pháp ở các cái khu vực rất là khác nhau như là khu vực biển đảo hay là khu vực nông thôn, khu vực thành thị, và tất cả những cái giải pháp này sẽ là những cái bài học rất là kinh nghiệm rất là tốt cho Việt Nam.
According to the UN, Vietnam is one of the countries most severely affected by climate change. Therefore, Vietnam has actively implemented several activities to cope with the adverse environmental changes, including international cooperation to find new solutions. The government of Vietnam approved the National Strategy on Climate in December 2011 and approved the National Action Plan on October 2012. To successfully implement this national strategy, Vietnam should conduct those at the provincial levels, especially in rural areas. This is a goal that many provinces and cities in Vietnam desire to achieve.
Hello and welcome to Sharing Vietnam on VTC10 Netviet. Nowadays, Vietnam is one of the countries which is more vulnerable to climate change. And fostering the international cooperation to cope with the climate change is the most concerned issues in Vietnam. To find out more about this, we have a talk to Mr. RÉMI GENEVEY, Director of AFD Vietnam, and he will share more about the new solutions for coping with the climate change. Thank you, Mr. RÉMI GENEVEY, for joining our program today. Well, first of all, what do you think about the current solutions of Vietnam to cope with the climate change in recent years?
Vietnam has started to work some years ago, work to improve its institutional framework in order to adapt the country to climate change. And there's a lot of work has been done, a lot of work is being done now that has taken the form of the contributions mentioned in the national contribution that Vietnam sent to the to prepare for COP21, and Vietnam has also undertaken a number of investments in order to protect the populations from the effects of climate change. For instance, investments to protect the Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi from floods.
In our exhibition today, there are 60 pictures representing 60 solutions were deployed. So, in your opinion, what are the solutions that you are impressed with the most, and why do you think that they are suitable for Vietnam?
The pictures that we are exposing are taken from this book that is called 60 Solutions. That there are 60 pictures and only 22 exposed. Express solutions that are easily adaptable to a country like Vietnam. The one that deals with improving efficiency in buildings, particularly administration's buildings. Another one that is about new transportation systems like metros, which will help improve the quality of air and, of course, avoid the emission of CO2.
So now 70% of Vietnam's population is located in rural areas, and it's very important to raise the rural public awareness on climate change. So what do you think about the role of the local authorities in this action?
I think their role is absolutely central. The projects that we finance and that are doing best are the ones that come from the field, from the districts, from the provinces. So the provinces, the local People's Committee, either in districts or in provinces, play a central role in selecting the projects, all kind of projects, but particularly those targeting climate change. So I would say that this is already the case. They play a central role because they know who they work for, and they listen to their people.
Climate change has been affecting all economic sectors in Vietnam. In particular, agriculture is the most vulnerable one. In rural areas where 70% of the country's population currently live and depend on agriculture, climate change is causing adverse effects on farming, horticulture, and irrigation for agricultural production. Agricultural production will decrease due to sea level rise, leading to saltwater intrusion into the coastal plain and lack of arable land. At the same time, this also causes seasonal changes and increases susceptibility to pests. Besides, farmers in Vietnam still lack access to climate change information.
Tại khu vực nông thôn của Việt Nam thì cũng đang chịu ảnh hưởng nặng nề bởi biến đổi khí hậu ở các cái khu vực khác nhau. Ví dụ như là khu vực đồng bằng sông Cửu Long, khu vực đồng bằng và châu thổ, đồng bằng châu thổ, hay là khu vực miền núi phía Bắc. Mỗi một cái cộng đồng ở từng cái khu vực thì cũng sẽ chịu những cái tác động khác nhau. Ví dụ như là khu vực ven biển thì chịu ảnh hưởng bởi cái hiện tượng xâm nhập mặn. Tuy nhiên khu vực ở miền núi phía Bắc chẳng hạn thì lại chịu tác động rất là nhiều bởi cái hiện tượng hạn hán hay cũng như là cái thay đổi cái mùa vụ.
Under this circumstance, the agricultural sector of Vietnam has set a specific action plan for the period 2011-2015 Vision to 2020, focusing on building the projects and new solutions to minimize the impact of climate change. A number of solutions have been implemented to help farmers develop agriculture, for instance, restructuring of planting from rice to crops and orchards. This would not only bring profits and productivity for farmers, but also help reduce carbon emissions during cultivation. At the same time, the enhancement in management capacity at the local levels also plays a crucial role in raising awareness and exchange of information for farmers to actively adapt and cope with climate change.
So it's important to favor the practices of agriculture that will allow to store better this carbon in soils. When carbon is immobilized in organic matter in soils, first you emit less carbon in the atmosphere, second you favor the development of water retention in the soil, and you favor the soil fertility.
Hiện tại ở Việt Nam thì chúng ta đã có rất là nhiều những cái chính sách liên quan đến biến đổi khí hậu. Tuy nhiên thì các cái chính sách này được tập trung phần lớn ở cấp trung ương, và việc mà đưa những cái chính sách này được triển khai ở cấp địa phương sẽ rất là quan trọng đối với lại các cộng đồng, để từ đó cộng đồng có thể chủ động và ứng phó với biến đổi khí hậu. Bởi vì chúng ta cũng thấy là cái nguồn lực cho ứng phó với biến đổi khí hậu là giới hạn. Để có thể ứng phó với lại cả biến đổi khí hậu hiệu quả thì cần có những cái thông tin liên quan đến biến đổi khí hậu chi tiết và cụ thể cho từng địa phương, để các địa phương hiểu rõ được cái tác động của biến đổi khí hậu và họ cũng có thể chủ động lập cái kế hoạch ứng phó với lại cái biến đổi khí hậu.
Climate change has becoming more severe and difficult to control, causing significant impacts to the society. If sea levels rise by 1 meter, Vietnam will have about 5% of territory and 11% of population and 7% of the farmland affected. As a result, Vietnam's GDP may decrease by 10% and 90% of the Mekong Delta will be submerged in water. This threatens the growth trajectory of Vietnam. Therefore, Vietnam needs to act urgently to overcome the natural imbalance and stabilize people's lives.
So the national strategy for climate change is suggested to be implemented at the provincial level. So in your opinion, how can a provincial project should be implemented that takes the climate-related dimensions into account?
The awareness of the local authorities, what comes from the field by the feeling that the local populations have, that they are affected by climate change already. The peasants, they know that the salinity of the soil has increased. They see and then see the seawater rise. The request for adaptation investments is obvious. What is more problematic is to raise awareness regarding the necessity to do mitigation investments targeted at reducing, mitigating the greenhouse gas emissions.
Right. So what are your suggestions to develop the rural area in a more sustainable way, which still mitigating the impact of climate change?
The breakdown of the inventory of greenhouse gas emissions that Vietnam has produced in order to prepare the national contribution that has been sent to the COP21, to the UNFCCC. Agriculture, and particularly paddy cultivation, rice production, plays a very important role in emitting greenhouse gas. We have to work, and you have to work upon looking into the breakdown of greenhouse gas emissions gives you the first hints of what should be done in agriculture.
So the COP21 will be held soon in Paris this year with the participation of Vietnam. What do you expect from the international discussion toward these issues?
The very idea of COP21 is to gather the contributions from all countries in order to calculate whether the addition of these contributions will permit not to increase the average temperature over 2 degrees Celsius by 2050. The COP21 will have to figure out what has to be done, what incremental efforts have to be done by all countries or by some of those countries in order to reach this target.
So as I know, the AFD has been quite one of the most important partners of Vietnam in coping with the climate change for a long time. So what is the future plan of AFD to support Vietnam in coping with the climate change in the future?
Particularly in Vietnam, where we are present on the institutional side, we have provided up to now 100 million euros in funding the support program to respond to climate change, which is a budget support program targeting the improvement of the institutional framework of the Vietnamese government in order to combat climate change. But we have also been very active both on the mitigation side and on the adaptation side. The total amounts that have been committed towards projects that have a measurable impact on climate change is over 600 million euros over the last 10 years.
Thank you so much, Mr. RÉMI GENEVEY, for joining our program today. And that is the end of our program Sharing Vietnam. We both know that the national strategy for climate change should be taken into account, and especially it should be implemented at the provincial level. So we do hope that Vietnam will boost further the cooperation with other countries around the world to find more solutions to cope with climate change while still maintain the sustainable development for the rural areas. For comments and feedbacks, please send it to sharingvietnam@netviet.net. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow.